welcome to lesson 106. This is about reading and ordering decimal numbers through 10,000ths. Now we've already done our place values up through the thousandths place. We have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and now we have 10,000ths place. So this means that whenever I have a tenths place, as a quick review, whenever I have a tenths place as a decimal number, that means I have 1 out of 10 as a fraction, so that's what it's equal to. If I had a 1 in the hundredths place, or my hundredths place, it means I have 1 out of 100, which is 1/100th. Whenever I have my thousandths place, it means I have 1 out of 1,000th, and 10,000ths means 1 out of 10,000ths. This is just simply a different way of writing fractions. They are parts of a whole, So example 1 says use words to name this number. Now, whenever we read these numbers, remember, we have our decimal points. We're going to read this as a normal whole number. It's like our ones and tens place. We read this as 12. And we are going to read these digits as we normally would, 6 to 5. We read as 625, but the place value that we're going to read is where it ends at. So we have 12, and remember our decimal point says and. So it's 12 and, then it would be 625. That's 3 place values, so that's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So it's 625 thousandths. So I'm going to go ahead and write that out for you in words. And erase this. Hopefully you'll remember. We have 12 and 625. And remember, whenever we write numbers, two-digit numbers in between 21 and 99, we put a dash or a hyphen. 25 thousandths. So it's 12 and 625 thousandths. So again, we read our digits after our decimal number like we normally would, 625. Then we just read the last place value. So that's the only difference. So we need to know our place values of our decimal numbers. So example 2 says to round 7 and 345 thousandths to the nearest whole number. Now we have already learned about rounding whole numbers, and when I round whole numbers, all I really need to look at is my tenths place. The other digits are simply irrelevant. Whenever I look at my tenths place, then I can round to my nearest whole number. So 7 and 345 thousandths. I have a 3 in my tenths place. It's less than 5, so that means I'm going to round down, which means my closest whole number down would be 7. So it rounds to 7 because this is less than 5. Say it's less than 5. So it's going to round down to the next whole number, which is 7, not 6. It rounds down to 7. That's the closest whole number. Example 3 says to compare. I have 4 and 5/10ths, 4 and 456 thousandths. Now the temptation would be, or a common misconception would be that I have 456 here and I have only 5 here, so obviously this one would be bigger because there's more digits. And that would be incorrect. That would be incorrect for the reason being that I have how many tenths here and how many tenths here. Again, we're going to start with our very first decimal place. I have 5/10ths here and I have 4/10ths here. 5/10ths is always going to be more than 4/10ths. It doesn't matter how many digits I add afterwards, it's going to be greater. Another way that you can look at it is if I add zeros, because I can, if I add zeros to the end of 4 and 5/10ths, I'm adding the same amount of zeros so that this is going to line up. Then we have 4 and 456. Now you're actually, if you're looking at digits, you have 500 here, 456 here, so we can see that 4 5/10 is larger. And I simply just added zeros, the value does not change at all. Example 4 says to arrange these decimals in order from least to greatest. So what I want to look at, this is a great strategy to have. I have, let's see, what color will I use? I use brown. I have, let's see, decimal numbers go all the way up to my 10,000ths place. This one's a little tough to see, but I'm going to start with this one and just line them up so that way you're able to see all of the decimal numbers lined up, and we'll be able to determine which one is our smallest, which one is our greatest. So I have 457 10,000ths. Let's see, then I have 3 decimal places here, so that's 0 and 457. Because I have nothing here, I'm just going to add a 0. My value doesn't change at all, so I can do that. Then I have, let's see, 2 decimal places here, 0 and 4,500. So I'm going to add 2 zeros here so that my decimal places, or place values are all lined up. Then I have 0 and 5/10. I'm going to add zeros here. Okay, so I have the same amount of digits for every single one. So then I can determine, okay, I need to take one place value at a time. Well, if I look at my whole numbers, I have zeros. So I don't know what's my smallest yet. I'm going to look at my tenths place. I'm going to put a T here for tenths. I have a 0 here, so this is my smallest because I have 0, 4, 4, and 5. So that's going to go first. So even though I have more digits here, I have 0/10, which is going to be smaller. So 0 and 457 10,000ths. So across that one, or use that one already. Then I have, let's see, 2 4s here, but I don't know yet. Then it's, let's see, look at my hundreds place, 2 5s. They're still the same. Then I look here. I have a 7 and a 0. So this one, my 4,500ths, is going to be smaller. 0 and, see, it was 4,500ths. I'm going to put an X by that. And looking back at these two, start with the tenths place again. I have a 4 and I have a 5. So this one is small. My 457,000ths is next. 0 and 457,000ths. And last but not least, 0 and 5/10. So that would be in order from least to greatest. Notice I lined them all up. I made sure they all had the same decimal place value. That way I was able to look at it and just start with each place value, looking at my tenths place first. That tells me, oh, 0 is smaller, so this number is smaller. Then I had a tie between my 2 4s in the tenths place, so then I had to move over to my hundreds place. 2 5s, still the same. Then I moved over again. I have a 7 and a 0, and 0 is smaller, so that makes this whole number smaller. Then I went back to my 4/10ths and did 457,000ths because that is smaller than my 5/10ths here, and then this one would be my greatest because 5/10ths is greater than 4/10ths and 0/10ths. So we will be going over some of the practice problems together in class, practicing more with decimal numbers because I know it's something we definitely need to continuously review over and to get more familiar with it as far as comparing and rounding them. So thank you very much for paying attention. I'll be taking a participation grade on your notes from each example problem. Thank you very much.